And in this episode, we are going to explore blood sugar with the fabulous Whitney Morgan. So thank you for joining me today, Whitney.
Yeah, my pleasure.
I am really looking forward to covering all of this information with you today. If you are just joining us, make sure to drop the word sugar below this video, and we are going to send you our healthy diet guide, and we are going to send you a link for a career advisory session with one of our FDN advisors so that you can explore if FDN is absolutely the right fit for you. So you're going to want to make sure that you drop the word sugar below so that you can get that healthy diet guide. Awesome. So this is the Real Results Show, where every week we feature real health coaches and practitioners getting real results for themselves and for their clients. So this is Whitney Morgan. Thank you, Whitney, for joining me today. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm fabulous. Fabulous.
Excellent.
Fabulous. Awesome. So I would love to get started and just dig in a little bit. How long have you been an FDN, Whitney?
Since 2013.
So you've been an FDN for quite a while.
Yeah, I started as a mentor, and now I'm a clinical advisor, pretty exclusively, and then also develop content for the course sometimes and for FDN Advanced.
Yeah, I've taken your advanced thyroid course.
Oh, cool. I hope you liked it.
I did. It was really good. So I would love to know, tell people a little bit more about what you do as an FDN clinical advisor and what role that you serve.
Sure. Well, as an advisor, when FDNs graduate, they have access to the medical director program where they are able to order a variety of different labs on their clients, and when they do that, of course, they're ordering those labs under the licensure of our medical directors, right? When they get the results back, then they can set up a session with someone like me, and I help them go through their lab results and analyze the results, take a look at their clinical notes based on, their client, the health history, the presentation, diet, what are their exercise and lifestyle factors, what kind of medications are they taking, and just kind of help them gather all that information and look at the client through the lens of the lab results that we're talking about, and then develop some protocols, lifestyle protocols that make sense for that client based on what we see.
And so that medical director program is really what is set up to allow FDN practitioners to be able to utilize that lab testing with their clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's one thing to have access to the labs, but if you don't have the continued support and learning about them and how to interpret them, and there's all kinds of different nuances to these labs, as you know, Piper, right? So this is kind of like a continuing education investment in your business as an FDN practitioner. So I think it's one of the most valuable services, that we offer to our practitioners going forward in their business.
I would agree 100%. In fact, I was actually on the phone with Whitney yesterday. We were going over looking at some lab results, and it's a great way to get a second opinion, a second set of eyes on that lab result, and really correlate it with what's going on with your client.
Absolutely.
So if you guys are just joining us, I have Whitney Morgan with me here today. She is an FDN clinical advisor, and we are going to be talking blood sugar. So make sure you drop the word sugar below this video, and we are going to send you our healthy diet guide, as well as our link for a career advisory session with one of our FDN career advisors. So make sure to drop the word sugar below, and we are going to send that to you. If you are ready, Whitney, let's dig in and talk about blood sugar. What is blood sugar?
Okay. Well, the short answer is it's glucose, right? So whatever glucose levels are traveling in the bloodstream, that is your blood sugar level at that time. And it varies throughout the day based on what we eat, what we drink, our stress levels, how well we slept the night before, whether or not we're exercising. All of these things will impact blood sugar. And so those levels will go up and down. But our body has a very elegant system to control the levels in the blood. It likes them kind of tight, right? And if there's too much in the blood, then it will start moving it into different tissues for storage.
And what kinds of things impact our blood sugar?
Well, like I said, certainly everything we eat and drink, and I would venture to say 80% of blood sugar regulation is dependent upon what you eat and drink, and then the other 20% is impacted by exercise and sleep and stress level. Now, stress level could mean a lot of different things, right? It can mean, how stressful is your job? How busy are you with family and kids and right? Just
Mhm.
basic relationship stuff, but also world stress, like what we're going through now, right? I mean, we are all under kind of a consistent stress load, right, as a nation, that we didn't have a year ago, right? So that also will kind of push on that blood sugar level. Anytime our stress goes up significantly, that does make a big difference.
Yeah, I definitely can attest to experiencing
Mhm.
that one
Yeah.
for sure. When we're talking about blood sugar and how it applies to our clients, or even to ourselves, what are some of the signs that our blood sugar might be out of whack?
Sure. Well, things like getting shaky, feeling lightheaded, dizzy, nauseous, nervous, anxious, sometimes headaches, um, getting sleepy, having difficulty concentrating. All of these things can indicate um, not just, I mean, could indicate just low blood sugar, but more accurately, I think it indicates this insulin glucose roller coaster. We might talk about blood sugar, but when we say blood sugar, we're really talking about the relationship, the dynamic interchange between glucose and insulin, right? And so if we sit down and we have a big piece of birthday cake, we get a big shot of glucose into the bloodstream. Now our energy can go up, we can get a little edgy and hyper, or we might just get a little sleepy. Um, but then insulin comes on board, right? And it starts trying to get that glucose out of the bloodstream, anything in excess, and so it moves it into storage areas, and then our blood sugar level goes down, right? And then we get these crash symptoms, and that can show up as kind of like that lightheadedness and hunger and dizzy and difficulty concentrating, but it really is a symptom of this roller coaster that we're riding.
Absolutely. I see we have a bunch of people watching us,
Yeah.
and Kendra Perry says, "Hey, Whitney."
Hey, Kendra.
Hey, everybody. While we're doing a little side chat here, Whitney and I would love to know where you guys are joining us from. And are you a health coach? Are you an aspiring health coach? Is this something you're looking to do, maybe to work on your own health or to change careers? So absolutely let us know in the comments below this video. We would love to know, and we'd love to make this video really work for you.
Awesome.
So when we talk about that blood sugar roller coaster, we're talking about, here we are going to eat this birthday cake and your insulin goes up, it's way up here. And then as that starts to come down, you end up with that drop. And,
Right.
and so what happens when people are eating and drinking things that are going to affect their blood sugar throughout the day? Do we see this rapid kind of up and down cycle?
Yeah, we do. And I would say that many of the people that come to see practitioners like us have blood sugar dysregulation,
Mhm.
chronically speaking, which has led to other health issues. And there's a laundry list of health issues that result from this roller coaster. But the reality is, we don't need that much glucose throughout the day. We need about 150 grams a day for basic function. And the majority of that can actually be provided to us by the liver. So we don't need to survive on dietary glucose. I think we've been conditioned to think that, well, glucose is the fuel, right? It fuels everything. And it is a fuel, but we don't need to take all of that fuel in through our diet. We can generate, our liver is very good at generating glucose for basic function. So most people end up in a situation where they are taking in more glucose than they need, usually in the form of carbohydrates, right? And then that excess glucose ends up being stored as glycogen, but glycogen stores can only take so much in, and then it starts getting stored as fat, right? So the body is very good at getting it out of the bloodstream because it's a fuel, but it's also kind of toxic, right? So we need to clear it out of the bloodstream. We don't want too much in there. And so we start to store it. So, you know, this kind of vicious cycle leads to things like well, heart disease and cancer, and increased risk of stroke, systemic inflammation, type 2 diabetes, right? Insulin resistance. That's kind of the primary threshold that occurs once we reach this tipping point where we've been riding this roller coaster for so long. The cells develop a resistance to insulin, and now we really have a problem, right? Because once we have insulin resistance, that elegant system no longer works, right? We have this dysfunction, and then you start seeing it show up in the lab results, right? Pre-diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, things like that.
What kind of goes into insulin resistance? Can you explain that mechanism a little bit?
Well, I guess the easy way to think of it is, let's see. So if you have someone who's maybe your kids are constantly at you saying, hey, when are we going to be there? When are we going to be there? Like you're taking a road trip, right?
Yeah.
Eventually you just stop listening, right? It's like, okay, right? And so insulin is the master hormone. It's the signal, and it comes out in response to glucose, and then it transports these nutrients into the cells. So if insulin is coming out all the time because we're putting so much glucose into the system, eventually the cells are like, yeah, I've heard that signal, right? That's the same old, same old. And they get a little resistance. They get tired of the signal. And it takes more and more insulin the next time to make those cells perk up and go, oh, yeah, it's you. Okay, I'll pay attention to you, right? So when we have insulin resistance, then this system that allows us to not only efficiently use glucose, but to get it out of the bloodstream and to store it, that system starts to break down. And then we see things like I was talking about, heart disease and systemic inflammation and other kinds of diagnoses.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic analogy. And I think that's something that can be very relatable to so many people who are experiencing this. And when you're explaining that insulin resistance, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And
right.
You just start to be like, no more.
And, one thing that to keep in mind too, because so many of our clients, I mean, I don't know about you, but the majority of my clients are women. And I would say 90% of my clients have some sort of thyroid disorder.
Yeah.
Right? And insulin resistance and hypothyroidism kind of go hand in hand, because once there's insulin resistance in the liver, then the liver stops converting T4 to T3. And I mean, the majority of our thyroid hormone conversion happens in the liver. And so then you get this hypothyroidism due to a lack of conversion brought on by insulin resistance. And once you have the hypothyroidism, now the glucose and insulin system slows down even more and gets more dysfunctional, because that thyroid dysfunction slows all metabolic processes. So it just becomes this vicious cycle. So I see that a lot. Hypothyroidism and insulin resistance kind of going hand in hand.
I absolutely do too. And the other thing that I see that goes with that is definitely the inability to lose weight. So many people who are like, I cannot lose weight. And that really goes right in there with it.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and that's also due to the fact that insulin is that master hormone, right? So if we have this pattern of insulin resistance that's chronically going on, then other hormones like leptin and ghrelin are impacted. We actually get hungrier, right? And it's harder for us to be satiated, and it's harder for us to access our fat stores, right? So all of those fuel burning mechanisms that make us metabolically efficient start to break down. And it's harder to lose weight when you're insulin resistant. It's very difficult. You have to actually break the cycle of insulin resistance before you can start taking off those pounds. And it doesn't really matter how much you exercise. You could spend all day on a treadmill And it's never going to make a difference if you're dealing with the insulin resistance.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So why do you think that, or why does out of whack blood sugar cause so many different problems in our health?
Well, I think for starters, because we live in such an abundant society in terms of our
Mhm.
access
That's
to
true.
cheap forms of fuel, and the amount of excess carbohydrates that we consume as a species now is really off the charts. And
Yep.
it just keeps going up, right? So access is probably the primary issue, right? There's too much abundance. Even though we have a legitimate food scarcity, of course, that's going on as well, right? The food that is available tends to be of a quality that injects excess carbohydrates into the system.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So Donna said that Dr. Fung suggests a different paradigm about insulin resistance. He says the cells have too much glucose, and that is why insulin can't get into those cells. She said he suggests the key is to lower glucose and fructose intake.
Absolutely lowering glucose and fructose intake. Yeah, I would say the key, I would put it more simply and say the key is to adjust macronutrients. And,
Mhm.
the most glucose abundant macronutrient is the carbohydrate. So everyone has their own carb sensitivity threshold,
Yep.
depending on your genetics and your heritage and your lifestyle, right? So some people are really quite healthy at 150 grams a day. Some people need less, less than 100, maybe 75, maybe even 50, right? So finding out, what is your carbohydrate sensitivity, and adjusting your macronutrients accordingly so that you can start to slowly retrain that metabolic machinery.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then that's something that is really great about FDN is that we're looking at that individuality,
Hmm.
really helping people to figure out like what is that their body needs
Yeah,
specifically.
yeah.
So why is balancing blood sugar going to be so important for people?
Well, because if we don't do it from the get-go as an FDN, if you're not addressing blood sugar as part of the primary work that you're doing with the client, you're not going to get outcomes and results that you want in any other area. It's going to just throw a monkey wrench into everything, right? So it really is that first threshold. And that's why we say, nutrition, what you choose to put in your body is so critical to everything else that we do with a client. So I don't care how many supplements you're taking. I don't care, how many times you're going to the gym. It doesn't really matter if you're not eating the way your body needs you to eat, right?
Mhm.
Then you're not going to get the results that you want. Nutrition is like the first step.
So Donna says that she learned what spiked her blood sugar through a glucose meter. Is that a tool that you would recommend for health coaches and FDN health coaches to really help their clients?
Sure. And some people utilize those like in the first month or so of working with clients. We have them not only keep a food diary, but also track their blood sugar, before meals and then 1 to 2 hours after meals or upon waking up, to get a sense of what their rhythm is through the day. And then correlate that with their lifestyle, right? So, are they staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning, right? Are they watching scary movies until 1 o'clock in the morning? What are they doing that impacts their blood sugar when they wake up? So it's not just about adjusting their diet, even though that's important. It's about looking at how everything they're choosing to do throughout the day is impacting their blood sugar. And the glucometer is a really great way to track that. If you're doing a food journal in conjunction with that, which I highly recommend, part of your food journal should also be how you feel, right? Not just physically, like, oh, okay, I feel sleepy, right? Or I feel foggy headed after a meal, but are you irritable? Are you sad? Are you happy? Are you, anxious? Those kinds of things too that are signs of blood sugar dysregulation, our emotional health.
So we are talking about blood sugar. If you guys are just joining us, drop the word sugar and we are going to send you our healthy diet guide. But what I want to talk about is that even though we're talking about blood sugar, it's not the only thing that matters. How do FDNs use blood sugar balance in their holistic whole body approach?
Well, I can't speak for all FDNs, but the FDNs that I work with, and I know I do this myself, is using blood sugar in almost an intuitive way with clients. I mean, my goal with any client is to get them to a place where they know their body, right? They know what foods are going to throw them out of balance, or what behaviors, what lifestyle choices are going to throw them out of balance. So I personally think that our mission is to get our clients to the place where they are the wisest, right, about their own health. They have the wisdom and they can go out on their own, and they need to hold our hands less and less. And blood sugar is a great way to, it's almost like a fast track to get clients to have an intimate, intuitive relationship with their body, because it is something that you can track, and it is something that has a lot of red flag and behavioral shift changes throughout the day. So it creates a greater sense of awareness about their health overall.
Donna wants to know if you'd like to answer this question, Whitney. How do you address the dawn effect, where morning fasting glucose is, for example, 100, but postprandial glucose readings are in an optimal range? And we'll talk about some ideal and optimal ranges too.
Yeah, well, you'd have to start asking yourself why, right? So I'd need to know more. I'd need to know more about that person. What is their sleep hygiene? Are they in pain when they sleep? Right? Do they truly sleep? I mean, a lot of people have chronic pain, and they might say, yeah, I go to bed at 10 and I get up at 7, but throughout the night they're tossing and turning because their hip is in constant pain and they have a bad mattress, right? So that's going to impact their blood sugar. How they eat the night before impacts their blood sugar. So if blood sugar drops too low during the night, then that initiates a stress response. Your body goes into fight or flight. Doesn't matter if you're sleeping. So cortisol goes up, blood sugar goes up, and you wake up and you've got elevated blood sugar, right? But there are a lot of different reasons why that happens. Even things like parasite infections can impact our blood sugar at night. So it's not as simple as how do you address elevated blood sugar in the morning when it's normal later on. It's about, okay, well, now we have a clue, but now we have to find out what are the underlying things that could be causing it. And there are some usual suspects that we would throw into the lineup, right? And start asking them questions. And we know what they are. And we have to kind of interrogate each of those suspects to rule them out until we can kind of hone in on what is really the big contributor to this obvious dysregulation.
And I think that's where it comes down to that, the term that Reed coined, test, don't guess, is really, we can look at this glucose, but like you said, is it liver? Is it gut pathogens? What's really going on a deeper level that's causing all of this metabolic chaos? So, that's just it is a great clue to dig further.
Yeah.
And then what is an ideal or optimal blood sugar level, just for everybody watching?
Yeah, fasting blood sugar, I'd say anywhere between 75 and 90. Anything below 75 is definitely hypoglycemic. Anything above 95 would be, that would indicate some insulin resistance. So there's that buffer between 90 and 95. You're getting into that danger zone. So personally, I like to see it in the 80s, right, upon waking.
Absolutely. Yep. I think those are great levels. And of course, we're using those functional levels, which are going to be much different than what you're going to see from things that your doctor's like, oh, that's normal.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So we are almost out of time. Whitney, I would love to know, do you have one tip, tool, or resource, piece of information that you have learned from FDN that you would love to share with everybody today?
Well, I would say you can't expect what you can't inspect. So when it comes to blood sugar, if you want to wrap your brain around, how do you balance it or what impact is it having in my life? Track your food. Get one of these apps like MyFitnessPal. Track your macronutrients. Track how you feel. See what you're actually putting in your body on a daily basis. Then, when you have the data over a period of 7 to 14 days, now you can start looking at that and making some deductions about it. But unless you have data to inspect, you can't have any expectations of results. That's what I've learned from FDN.
Absolutely. So there's one last question, and then we are going to sign off. But Donna wants to know what your opinion is of glucose support supplements like chromium and alpha lipoic acid.
Yeah. Well, those are usually my last resort, right? I do most of my work around nutrition and lifestyle, and I would say 90% of the time, that's where all the gold is. And that if you do the right work there, you don't need blood sugar support. But occasionally I will go there. There is a product I use I think it's called Glucose Supreme by Designs for Health. And it's a nice formula, so it's got a variety of different blood sugar regulating nutrients. It's not just single supplements. It's a formula, and I really like it, but I rarely have to use it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Whitney, for joining me today. Thank you, everybody that was watching. Yes, I love to have you on. I love to dig in and talk about all the nerdy stuff that we love to talk about. But thank you, everybody who is watching. Make sure to drop the word sugar below this video. I will be back next week on Tuesday with Health Coach Tip Tuesday, and I'm going to have Reed with me, and we are going to have a really awesome special presentation. So you don't want to miss that next Tuesday. And then, of course, I'll be back with the Real Results Show again on Wednesday. So thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you again, Whitney.